Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you today. Welcome to the Hero's Journey podcast, sacred space where you can kiss your doubt goodbye and embark with confidence and love on your quest to become the hero on your journey back to wholeness. Together with brilliant minds, we venture into the unknown to revive and mend what is torn and to patch what is missing. And I'm so thrilled to have Haley back here on this beautiful podcast. As you remember, I think it was episode 11. We dove deep into her health journey. And today we're going to dive into her love journey, really falling in love, I guess, with herself and also finding a beautiful relationship. And I'm so excited how this has unfolded and kind of what lessons you've learned to the way of, finding this beautiful relationship. And yes, the mic is all yours. Please take us with you on your with your hands and just let us know where did it start.
Wow. Thank you for the intro. So this is interesting because I sit here, I'm like, where do I even begin? And I guess I'll kind of thread this into the last podcast episode to a certain degree, because one thing I have come to realize, which is true for me and may or may not be true for the viewer, is I genuinely now believe that love stems from health. And by that, I mean physical health and mental health is foundational to manifesting a partner you love and a life you
Yeah.
love. And, actually, I'm just going to go as far to say this is applicable to everyone because, you could say you love your partner or you love your life, but if you don't have health, what do you really have? And I was not trying to manifest love very heavily. That was not on my agenda. And at the point we interviewed last, I was just so happy I got my period back and I was starting to engage more in a healthy lifestyle that I was so satisfied with that. And I believe now it's in tangoing with that new frequency of health, physical and mental, and allowing myself the freedom to eat different foods, do different workouts, maintain my meditation practice, which opened new doors and opportunities, synchronicities, friends, that I just naturally started to fall in love with life.
Yeah.
And I believe Dr. Joe, among many other spiritual teachers, have talked about how you have to love yourself before you find a real loving partner. And I definitely think that's true. But I also don't think it's as cut and dry and straightforward as, okay, I love myself. Like, where's my partner? Falling in love with yourself, at least for me, was something that happened incrementally. And it's almost as if I didn't even notice it was happening. Gradually every day I was falling a little bit more in love with different facets of my life. And it's not really until someone like you or a close friend is like, wow, you've come so far, that I'm like, oh yeah, that is like really far. So I invite everyone who's watching this to also just take a second and let me be the person to ask you, how far have you come in the past year? Because the reflection is so important. Sometimes we're inching so little by little that we don't realize we've crossed a whole ocean.
Oh, yes, that's so true. Amazing. Oh, I'm so excited. Yes. Feel like you're totally right. Like when you have a certain practice, like for instance, meditation, and when you learn to regulate your nervous system and stress, you become more relaxed, your health gets better, your mental health gets better. And then I have also the same experience. You're just naturally falling in love with life, or at the beginning, you're just okay with what is happening. You don't take it as personal anymore. And I'm excited to hear how it continued from there for you.
Yeah, and I think that's a big key is you start feeling okay, meaning you stop needing to change things. And one thing I'll actually point out that I do, again, from hindsight now see as a really pinnacle part of the journey is I actually stopped doing meditations that were obsessive about the future.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Yeah.
what I mean by that is still love Dr. Joe to death, but I stopped doing his new potentials meditations. I stopped doing the change the box meditation. And for me, at least, it was very important to kind of elevate into a higher frequency of, can I accept right now? Literally right now, exactly as it is, the way my body
Mm,
is right now, the way my diet is right now, the way my income or lack thereof is right now. And it was in coming into attunement with what is present right now and being grateful for the things I had right now and not focusing on the obsession. Like, I want the boyfriend, I want the wealth, I want to manifest the new potential, that really brought me into the frequency of actually being able to love right now. So I would go as
mm,
far to say acceptance and love are equivalent. And I think love is just a higher manifestation and more obvious manifestation of someone who accepts themselves and accepts
yeah.
everything in their now moment.
Yes. Yes, definitely. I
So
always
yeah,
think
I
about
want to
this.
talk about, of course, I want to talk about my boyfriend.
Yes, let's
What was
let's
that?
go.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, I of course want to talk about my boyfriend and how beautiful my relationship is. But before getting to that, I think it's so important to go over the things that shifted for me. So, number one, what I just went over was I stopped being obsessed with the future and I started
Yeah.
really grounding myself in the now. And so that actually, ironically enough, looked like a little bit less meditation for me, which is so interesting because and by all means, I don't want anyone to think I'm saying don't meditate. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying ask yourself your intention of why are you meditating? Because at least for me, it became this thing of like, oh, more is better. I got to meditate 4 hours a day now, 5 hours a day. And I'm like super hardcore. And I realized I was guilt tripping myself into thinking I'm not
Mm,
worthy unless I meditate for X amount of time.
mm,
Or I found myself
mm.
dragging myself to the meditation chair in order to draw in the new potential. And so for me, I became aware of that and I realized, okay, unless my intention can be to sit here in love, enjoyment of this present moment, then there's no need to meditate. Then what I said is, if I can't do that, then I will, with my eyes open, practice observing this now moment. And this sounds very silly, but something I really started to incorporate about a year and a half ago was like literally I'd pick up something in my environment, like this fork, and you can see there's like different reflections of light on the fork. I would watch the way this light travels, see how it travels across the fork, and I would just
Mm.
stare at it. Like, it sounds silly, but I would utilize all of my five senses. So my sense of
Yeah.
sight, I would observe the way light bounces off things. My sense of smell, like what do I actually smell? I'm in a cafe, so I smell some garlic. What do I actually hear? Beyond the traffic, I hear the people talking. Beyond that, I hear birds chirping. Beyond that, I hear wind, like getting deeper and deeper into each and every sense. So what do I touch? Like really feeling like each finger pad. And so, anyways, I started to, I'll just say in one nutshell, meditate with my eyes open and
Yeah.
getting really good at being present in the now moment.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. I feel that. I've definitely been there too, like obsessing about the future, and then you take basically the old personality within to your meditation and meditate with it and become like you make it another thing to achieve instead of just like enjoying what is
Right.
right now and then just falling in love and then by default drawing your future to you. So yeah, yeah, the ultimate goal is always to be able to do this also with your eyes open. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing this exercise. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try it myself as well.
Yeah. And it's cool because anyone who's watching this can do this literally right now. Like, it's literally as simple as pick up the object right in front of you. And if you don't have an object, you can even use your fingernail. Your fingernail reflects light, and just try to tune into the now moment. Because you'll notice if you're actually trying to really follow the reflection where it begins, where it ends, your mind will naturally have to turn off the more detail you want to observe.
Oh, that's a
So yeah,
great
I
tip.
think that, yeah, that was definitely a really big part for me, finding a way to stop obsessing about the future and get present. And I'm trying to remember, was our last interview in New York City? Did I live in New York still?
No, you
I think
were,
I
I
did.
think, at your dad's place, I believe.
Right. Okay. Oh my gosh. November last year. That's when this interview was. Yes, I remember that month because I had just left New York a few weeks prior to our
Yes.
interview. And
Yeah.
for those of you who don't know, I used to live in New York, worked full time as a model, and I decided to let go of that because it wasn't serving me anymore. And so I spent the month of November 2024 at my dad's house. And that was a very hard month for me because I was like, oh my gosh, am I that girl that's like moving in with her parents?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm being so dramatic. I lived with my dad for 4 weeks. And then we went to the Cancun retreat with Dr. Joe. And that was the last time I did Dr. Joe's work, was last December. And it was after that retreat that I felt really fulfilled and thankful for his work, but I could tell it was time for me personally to move on. And so that's when I started to incorporate more of these meditative techniques I just told you about. And that also looked like going on walks and observing nature. It also looked like the most important thing, guys, this is the most important thing. Like, forget what I just said. This is way more important. That's still important, but you want to get present, stop using this little thing.
Oh, yes.
So I left the country after this Cancun retreat and I did not get a SIM card. And I told myself, Haley, you are addicted to this phone. And the only reason you haven't yet admitted this is because everyone's addicted to their phone. And, when everyone's doing it, it's so easy to follow suit and think that there's no problem. But I really sat myself down and I said, if I want to keep marinating in this now moment, because I started to discover how good that
Oh,
felt, I
yeah.
realized I needed to cut off the things that were cutting me off from the now moment. And quite literally, just think about this. When you're observing the now, you are observing the 3D world. And then the deeper you go, you can even sometimes get the sixth sense and observe like 4D consciousness, which is like you can be aware of love's presence as you're really tuning in and the mind is turning off. And so, wouldn't it be counterintuitive then to place my attention, my energy on a screen, which is quite literally two-dimensional? And so this is
Mm.
the logic I used. I said, why would I go down a dimension? I'm trying to elevate into fourth density consciousness, not second density consciousness. So I didn't get a SIM card, meaning my phone does not work unless I have Wi-Fi. And that was a huge shift for me. It was obviously really inconvenient sometimes if I need to like call a cab because I'm lost or I don't know where I am and I need to look up a map. And twofold, that inconvenience forced me to use my prefrontal cortex, which is the creative part of the brain, which also helps
Oh,
you
yes.
become more aware and elevate into a higher presence. And then additionally, it also got me to stop relying so heavily on a two-dimensional screen. And so I also accredit a lot of my coming into the now moment with that key aspect.
I
Yeah.
love
And I know what
that,
everyone's thinking.
that you
How does
were
this
just
relate to
like,
love? I'm getting there. Yeah, do you have any questions?
oh no, I think it was shortly a little bit delayed, the video, so I started talking when there was a pause, but then you started talking again. But all I wanted to say is that it's so true. When you give yourself a little bit of time to actually get bored, or maybe not immediately reaching for your phone or for ChatGPT or whatnot, you actually get really creative and it's a lot of fun and it's actually really nice and self-rewarding to find a solution on your own. So I love that. Especially the
Yeah.
creative part. Don't give everything away to ChatGPT.
Yeah. And that's another thing. I personally don't have ChatGPT on my phone. I don't have an account. And again, I'm not saying that you who's watching this shouldn't do that. I'm just saying, monitor it with mindfulness because these tools and technologies are
Yes.
addictive. And just because everyone's doing it doesn't necessarily mean that it's okay. And so using these tools mindfully, of course, is super innovative, but make sure you're using them, they're not using you. That's what I would say.
Exactly. Yes, that's the point.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, yeah, I left my dad's house, left the Dr. Joe retreat. I traveled for a few weeks in Hawaii where I used to live, saw some friends, and then the new year hit and I realized, oh my gosh, okay, what do I do now? You
Mm.
know? I had not really planned anything up until this point, and this is where I realized I'm severely in the pure unknown because there's no lineup, right? There's no New York City to go back to. There's no job to go back to. I could go back to my dad's house, but that idea just like filled me with dread, which I love my dad so much. He's literally my best friend. But I kind of was looking for a little bit more freedom. And I felt like for me, at least, that would be a step backwards. So I really didn't want to go back to my parents' house and I wanted to start something new. But the only problem was I had no idea what I wanted to start. And
Wow.
so I started praying a lot. I personally am a big fan of prayer. That's a form of
Yeah.
meditation for me. And I know the word prayer can have kind of a stigma to it. So by prayer, I just mean simply talking to myself
Yeah.
in order to get to know myself. That's what I mean by prayer. And you can do it in various forms, right? Just in the mind, in journal form, or quite literally out loud. I do on walks a lot as well. And so, yeah, it kind of dawned on me, well, I don't know what to do. I've got a bit of money saved up. And so then I thought, what's something that I would want to do before I die? Because that seems like the right thought span right now, since I kind of feel like I'm dying already. Because I was so kind of just like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Am I failing? I just quit my job. What's going on? So I answered the very simple
Stressful.
question, which I think is an interesting question to answer, even if you're not going through a quarter life crisis, which is what is something I would so regret if I didn't do before I died? And for
Oh
me,
yeah.
it was going to India to do a yoga retreat, which is kind of cliche, but whatever. That's just how I felt. So, not even to become a teacher or anything, just to elevate my own practice at home. So, I started up looking up yoga retreats. I'm still in Hawaii, staying at my friend's house, and I find a few. And then I came across this random one in Bali that was offering a scholarship. So, I wrote this essay, I submitted it, and then a few days later, I'm trying to decide which one to go to. And the one from Bali gets back to me that I've received the scholarship. And I was like, okay, wow. I mean, in my mind, I was definitely assuming I'd be in India. I'd only applied to this one because it had a few $1,000s off. But seeing my predicament, I said, okay, this is not what I planned, but maybe this is God's plan. And also, this is the more economical choice for me at the time since I'm not working. And it will allow me to just feel a bit easier on myself and not feel the stress of having to make money sooner than later. So I chose to go to the retreat in Bali. And yeah, like 3 days later, I took off from Hawaii straight to Bali. So I
Amazing.
just had a small carry on, didn't really plan, but luckily I always have yoga clothes with me because I love yoga. And I arrived, went to this retreat, and another promise I'd made myself was this was my year that, okay, maybe I'd get a new job, maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I would figure everything out, maybe I wouldn't. But what I was going to do, something that I knew I was capable of, you could say this was my resolution for the year, was to ground. Because my whole life, I have been a jet setter. Growing up, my mother loved to move. And then when I lived in New York City, I lived in New York City, but I was always traveling for modeling. And I really wanted to stay put for 1 year somewhere
Mm.
so that I could start to build relationships. And by relationships, I mean friendship and potentially romantic. But I was thinking mostly friendship, like deep
Yeah.
friendship relationships.
Yes.
And so I told myself, you have this one last travel stint, and then you are going to move to either Maui or San Diego. These were the options I had given myself. You're going to choose one and you're going to stay there for at least a year. So this was also a really exciting trip in the sense that I thought, oh my gosh, this is the last time I'm going to travel in a year for a year, which is crazy because I'm very used to traveling like every 3 weeks kind of thing.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I went to Bali, did this yoga retreat. I met a very sweet girl on the retreat. And after the retreat, she said, we should travel for a few weeks in Bali. And I was like, okay, sure. I'll give myself 3 more weeks to travel. But then I really got to go ground because this was my goal and I need to complete it. And so I traveled with her for a few weeks. And I think it was 2 weeks into us traveling, I was telling her about my resolution to ground. And she said, well, why don't you just move here? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I never thought of that. And she's like, well, would that go against your goal? I was like, technically not. My goal was just to stay in a place for a year. She's like, cool, let's move here. Like, I want to move here too. And so I remember sitting inside Alchemy in Ubud, Bali, which is a restaurant, in this corner deciding to move to Bali. And I was like, great. Well, I don't need to go anywhere because I kind of already have everything I need. I'm a minimalist, so I live out of a suitcase anyway. And so she was like, well, I need to go home and quit my job, sell my car, sell my apartment, all these things. So I'm going to do that and then I'll come back. And so we spent another week together and then she went back to the States and did all that. And I just stayed. And yeah, in those few weeks, I was getting very tired of moving from Airbnb to Airbnb. So I finally found a place and stayed there, got a rent. And I told her, when you come back, we'll figure it out. We'll maybe move into a 2 bedroom or we'll figure it out. But I really need to start my grounding experience. So I finally got a place. I was so excited to move in. And I met a guy. Drum roll. So, also, I will just mention at this yoga retreat, we had done an activity about manifestation, a whole workshop on it, and then write what you want to manifest, and we're going to bury it in the ground. And at this point in time, I had already adopted this new belief system of I don't really, not that I don't believe in manifestation, but it's not resonating with me right now. And I prefer God's will, is what I would always start to say. So I remember during that activity, I wrote down, I want a boyfriend that turns into a husband. But then when time came to tear it up and put it into the ground, I was like, that doesn't resonate with me. So I just left this little piece of paper in my journal. And it's interesting because now I realize actually in taking the inaction of not burying the paper, I was letting go of this intention altogether.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that's something very interesting to me. And so, yes, I met this guy. He's very sweet. We're hanging out a little bit. He's a bit older than me. Long story short, there was a lot of red flags I ignored. And I ended up breaking my clavicle, which is
Oh,
this
I
bone right here.
remember that. I remember that. Yeah. Oh my goodness. You had like a
Yeah,
scooter accident, right?
scooter accident. Yeah, I fell off a bike. It was very, very wild. Um, but yeah, so I fell off the bike and then I was kind of seeing him at the time. So he took me to the hospital. He was the one who took care of me. But in this accident, I was forced to sit still for a lot of the time. And I started to be able to hear my intuition more heavily. And I started to notice that for whatever reason, I knew this was bad news and I knew I needed to end it. And so it was very, very hard for me to do that. But I ultimately followed that voice because, again, I really accredit it to this injury. With this injury, I had to lay still for most of the day for about 2 months. And so I just got so in tune with my body. I was so aware if my body's contracting or relaxed. And I would notice when he would come around, I would instantly contract.
Oh.
And so it was very, very hard for me to drop this. It wasn't a relationship yet. We were just kind of hanging out. It was really hard for me to cut it off because I had no logical reasoning as to why I don't feel this is right. And I really wanted it to be right. But anyways, I ended up listening to my intuition, telling him like, this isn't going to work for me. He was so confused. He tried to convince me. And I really just stuck to my boundary, which is like, no, I need to follow how I feel. And so I did that. And then I decided to go home to the States for a month because I was kind of heartbroken. And now I realize I was not in love with him, but I was in love with the idea of what we could have been, the idea of a relationship. And this is such a key thing, you guys. If you meet someone who's 80% of the person that you dream of, well, that's great, but don't you believe in 100%? Don't you believe you deserve 100%? And slowly, as I gave myself space from this relationship that my intuit was telling me was off, I started to realize this guy was like maybe 70% of what I actually desired. And so I got really extra clear on I can have it all, so I might as well get very clear on what it is I actually want. And in that month home in the States with my dad, I got very, very clear on what I wanted. And by the time I came back to Bali, I just felt more self-assured because I was aware of who I am and what I desire. And not desire in a hungry way. It's not like I was like on the prowl looking for a man. I was actually not. I was just so like, oh wow, I totally know what I want. That's cool. And I was super relaxed and chill. So this is the first part of the story.
Letting go of control.
Yes, letting go of control. And then let's see. Oh my gosh. It's so funny how the mind can take little bits and pieces out. I was about to skip to the fun, exciting part, but before we get there, there's a very necessary part that happens when I return to Bali. And it's this fun little set of words called the dark night of the soul. Have you heard of
Mm.
that? Yeah.
I think so. We've all been there.
Girl. So, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I had been there already. And this is the interesting thing to me about the dark night of the soul is there's just like love, there's an infinite potential to experience your shadow and integrate it, right? Because if there's infinite light available, that also means inversely there's infinite shadow to be integrated. So I thought I had already experienced the worst of the worst of the worst of the dark night of the soul in New York City
Mm.
as I was quitting my modeling career. Like that was horrible. So much to get over. Also in healing from the eating disorder in the past. Like I had already been through so much. I thought, oh, surely I've done the worst of it.
Mm.
And I don't know, something about returning to Bali just made me so, so sad. I was still mourning the fact that I was not in a relationship after thinking I really would be. And I had guys like days and days, like there was I think a point where there was 5 or 4 days in a row where I was crying, like sobbing, screaming on the kitchen floor. Like didn't even have the energy to make it into bed to cry. Like it was crazy. And
Wow.
so this is something I want to bring up because no one talks about just how severe the dark night of the soul can be, but I quite literally felt insane. And I actually even had, I'm just saying how it is. I had thoughts of like suicide. I had
Mm.
very dark thoughts, and I personally would never actually act on that. But the fact that these thoughts were coming up to me was absolutely insane. I was like,
Yes.
wow, I've really lost it this time. And
Yes.
yeah, it was honestly worse than anything I could have ever imagined. But on the bright side, I'm here today, totally fine. And I realize now that was my ego dying. That was my ego
Mm.
committing suicide. That was not me as a person doing that. And so that was a very necessary part too, because in unfortunately going through anything difficult, it's also, I kind of think of one of those sponges that are made out of steel, like a scrubby sponge. And I feel like it's the dark night of the soul is getting that scrubby sponge and like scratching your insides with it.
Oh, yeah. That's a good description.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it hurts. It hurts so much, but it's also purifying.
Yeah.
So tears, yelling, screaming, feeling upset, feeling lonely, all of these emotions are passing through the film of your awareness in order to be liberated. And the reason it hurts is because you're aware of it. So I see that now from a higher light. I was going through a deep purification process when I got back, and I was still very injured. So that was fun. And then, yeah, just over time, these dark night of the soul things just got to a very peaceful place. I don't know. Have you experienced that?
Girl. I like the worst. I think my biggest dark night of the soul was shortly after my very first Joe Dispenza retreat in Turkey 2021, where literally my ego, everything was falling apart. I had the same experience. Like I was facing suddenly so many emotions that I didn't even was aware that they even existed. I was confronted with so much fear and like also physical pain. I also had the experience like I literally felt quite insane every time I wanted to sit down to meditate. It was just so intense, and I didn't have the courage to sit through it. So what I did, I was kind of avoiding it even more, and I was like in a super stressful situation. Like it was the last year of my bachelor. I had this quite toxic shared apartment situation in the Netherlands back then, and there was stress everywhere. And then it kind of spiraled. Like I also cried every day. I cried every day, so hard, and I ended getting diagnosed with panic disorder because when I was reflecting back, I saw, like, I was running away from these emotions because I thought, like, yay, before I had meditations and I had always nice experiences, and then I really came to the end of my belief, and it really, like, I was really doubting everything, and I was questioning my sanity a lot of times too. So the dark night of the soul is indeed a very intense experience, also physically. And I will say, if you still like, what helped me, because I realized I had to go back to some sort of practice. I have to face it. And then I reread the books. And then I started to understand, or like, when you know kind of what's going on, then it's not as scary anymore. So I realized, oh, okay,
Mm,
this is just my body throwing a tantrum. And then I was able to get out
right.
of it because I was observing it. And then when I decided not to run away from it anymore, then things got better. But I will say, and I have to acknowledge that sometimes the dark night of the soul is like, it feels like, yeah, you're falling apart because that identity structure is literally dying and there is a grieving process. However, if you just like take some time and sit with you and just like breathe or just ground, you will notice it's not necessarily you, but it's a part of you that is dying, and that makes everything a little much
Right.
more, um, yeah, then you can observe it and you are fine with it and you feel it, and then it actually passes through much quicker. But yes, it's an experience.
It is an experience, and you're definitely right. Knowledge is power. When you're aware of what's happening,
Mm,
uh, it it becomes painful, not suffering. So it still like sucks. You're still crying, but
yeah.
you're watching you cry. And again, this is also why I had chosen to step away from the Dr. Joe work, because I realized I personally had started to become obsessed with this concept of changing my energy and like, oh, you got to get up and go, go, go. And it's like, actually, no. For me, at least, I found sometimes you literally just need to sit and watch yourself cry. You don't need to get up. You don't need to change your energy. You don't need to go into a meditation and like try to open your heart. Like, no, you just need to integrate this sadness that wants to be hugged. And so that was such a necessary part for me.
Mm,
And yeah, of course, having guidance and friendships to remind me that I'm strong and I can get through it was really helpful as well. But it was a very dark time for me. And this darkness kind of transmuted into a peace. So, kind of imagine when you've had a really, really long cry and you're actually just so tired because you've been crying for hours that you naturally stop crying and you fall into like a peaceful slumber.
yes.
This is just the natural evolution because you can't cry forever, you know. And same with the dark night of the soul. It feels like it's going to be forever, but technically, schmechnically, it cannot last forever
Yeah.
because biologically, it just cannot. And so I started to enter an era of peace. And at first, it was more like apathy, more like, huh, I don't care about anything. Nothing means anything. But then it transmuted into peace, like a very just serenity, no thoughts in the mind. It's almost as if I was continually waking up from a daze. And this lasted for a few weeks. And then here's the fun part where I get into a crazy, what I realize, quantum leap. So after all of this is happening, I'm in this peaceful daze for a few weeks, have no desires really, just like totally cruising, still don't have a job really. And I had been approached, I think, 4 times at this point within Bali to model. And every time I'm like, I don't model anymore, that's past me. And this person comes up to me and asks if I want to meet with this agency. And I'm like, you know what? There's got to be a reason this keeps happening to me. Maybe I'm supposed to engage and see if I can hold the frequency of confidence, even in the midst of an environment that usually would be very triggering for me, like a modeling agency office. And so I decided to go to the meeting, and I was so different than how I used to do things, right? Like years ago, when I used to go to an agency meeting, I would try to make sure I looked my best. I would sometimes like overwork out right before so I could be extra slim, just like crazy stuff. And this time I didn't engage in any of these habits. I just showed up, ate breakfast, showed up like how I would show up to a coffee date with someone. And that was, yeah, definitely a triggering experience for me. And it took a lot of courage to go. It actually took so much courage that the original date of the meeting, I was so anxious the day before that I canceled the meeting and I moved it a week out. And so I didn't actually take that first day, which was a Thursday. I moved it to next week. I lied to them. I said, "Oh, I'm sick. I can't come."
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I was trying to resist and avoid. So I made sure that that next Thursday I went. And so in between this time frame, I had been trying to actively tackle my fears. Another fear of mine was asking for help building this website I was building, which is now live, which is so exciting. It's called Remodel You. It's a website where I help women work through eating disorders and body dysmorphia. So check that out or share that with anyone you think could benefit. But yeah, I was in the process of building this website, and honestly, I'm not very techie, so I realized I needed a bit of help. And I have plenty of techie friends. And so, because I had postponed this modeling agency meeting, I said, "Okay, Haley, you still need to conquer one fear this week. What's it going to be? You're going to ask for help." So I call up Hector, who is a friend of mine that I actually met at my first Dr. Joe retreat. He's very business savvy, very tech savvy. And I was like, "Look, dude, I am asking for help. Like, literally any direction you have. I'm trying to build this thing." And I explained this whole thing to him. He was super helpful. And at the end of our call, he says, "Oh, there's this girl that lives in Bali. I know her because she used to live in Miami where I live. And she is a woman who owns her own business. So I think it'd be really good for you guys to hang out so that you can start to observe what it's like to be around a feminine energy that also has a boss babe energy."
Oh, I love that.
And so he gave me her number and I reached out to her. And she lives in Ubud, which is 2 hours north of where I live in Uluwatu. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to meet, but like you kind of live far. So if you're ever up here, let me know. Or if you're ever in Canggu, which is if Ubud's here and Uluwatu's here, Canggu is equidistant in the middle, then we can meet there." And I was like, "Oh, well, funny enough, next Thursday I have to go to Canggu for this meeting. So afterward we could hang out." And she's like, "No way, I'm going to Canggu on Thursday for my boyfriend's best friend's restaurant opening." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So all of a sudden, I have this new connection. And now, this very scary day, which is next Thursday, this modeling agency meeting, I feel like I'm also receiving a gift from God for, engaging in both of my fears and get to hang out with a super cool girl afterward. So the week passes, I go to the meeting. It was hard, but I did it and I was really proud of myself. And then right afterward, I go to meet this girl I've never met. Her name's Sierra. So I meet Sierra, and she didn't mention this to me, but her boyfriend was with her as well. And yeah, I met both of them, and then we went to the restaurant opening. And the restaurant was Alchemy, which was the very same restaurant that I went to a different location in Ubud, and that was the restaurant I decided to move to Bali in. So it's a very yeah, just
Well,
synchronicity of it.
yes.
And so her boyfriend's best friend is what she told me owns Alchemy. So when we got there, she introduces me. "Oh, this guy owns Alchemy." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like so funny!" But I actually decided to move to Bali while sitting in your restaurant in Ubud. Like it's so cool to be at this new restaurant opening. And him and I hit it off very quickly. We became very good friends. And next thing I know, I had opened a whole new door of friendships to myself. And I felt like it was directly correlated to the fact that I had faced my fears. So yeah, me and James, the restaurant owner, became very, very good friends. And he lives in Ubud actually, so where Sierra lives as well. And I live in Uluwatu. So I would now start to go up frequently to Ubud to hang out with him and some of his friends. And one day I remember he was like, "Oh yeah, you got to come up to Ubud. Like there's this really, really cool indigo dye blue workshop, and I would love for you to come." So basically, they cut the indigo plants and then they soak them, and it makes a blue dye. And then you can get like white clothing and dip it and dye your clothes blue naturally. And he had told me that this guy who is his long-term friend of 14 years is going to be there, and like some of his other friends, this girl who makes cool silk clothing. He's like, "Tons of cool people are going to be there. You have to come." So I was like, "Yeah, I'll come." Tuesday comes and I have to get up at 6 a.m. because the car ride to Ubud is like 2.5 hours. And I wake up and I'm like, "I don't want to go. Like, this is so far." And I'm about to cancel. And he's like, "Dude, you have to come. Like, come on. You got to." And okay, fine, I'll come. So I get there and I remember I'm like running kind of late because the traffic, and I get there and I remember I walk out of the cab with all the coffee orders for everyone, and I'm like struggling to hold everything, and then out walks this guy to help me with the coffee order. And yeah, I remember making eye contact with him, and I was like, "Oh, hi." And he was conventionally cute, but I really wasn't looking for anything. And so we all take the car to the Indigo Dye Blue workshop, and there's a baby in the back. He's about 5 years old, and I love, 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 love kids. So I started hanging out with this little guy, and then we're just having so much fun. And like most of this workshop, I was hanging out with the 5-year-old because I was just so like thought he was so cool. And I found out later that the guy who had helped me with the coffee was his dad. And yeah, long story short, we're just having the best time ever. It's actually this guy's birthday. His name is Alexis. So the guy with the 5-year-old who helped me with the coffee. It's his birthday. And he ends up having like the best birthday ever. And we all just hit it off. It's James's best friend, long time. And this is my now boyfriend I'm talking about. But we also found out that Alexis is my neighbor, my
No
next door neighbor.
way.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, I live in Uluwatu." I was like, "I live in Uluwatu," and he shows me the map, and like, yeah, we're literally next door neighbors. And it's so funny because I live in this little hut that's called a juggalo in Balinese, and he lives in this massive, beautiful house right across the driveway. And I've always wondered, like, whose house is that? The thing is so nice, and it's literally his house that he designed because he's an architect. So, a lot of synchronicity there. I realize now, even if I hadn't made it to this workshop, him and I were destined to meet. And yeah, our relationship was very sweet right off the bat. I was really close friends with Aiden, his son, and he was just kind of there because it's his dad. And so we would hang out often because I always wanted to like paint with his son or like take him to the beach or go swimming with him. And over time, I was kind of like, wow, this dad's really nice too. And I started to develop a mini crush, but it was the kind of thing that I would have so much rather been friends with him than ruin it. So I never said anything. So it was much, much different than anything I'd been in the past in the sense that it was not this fiery hot, like I want to make out with you or I can't wait to go on my first date.
Mm,
It was like this like sense of awe and respect and like arm's distance.
mm-hmm.
You know, we would only ever hug each other when saying hello and saying goodbye. I didn't get any weird sexual energy on his end. I also didn't emit any of that. And it was a very like sweet, precious thing that we had. And so he invited me on a trip to Sumbawa, which is a neighboring island to Bali. And it was supposed to be me, James, and another couple and their kids. And everyone ended up canceling last minute. And so Alexis asked me, would you still like to come? It'll just be me and Aiden. And I said, you know, sure. And he actually offered that I could bring a friend if I felt more comfortable doing that, because I'd only known him for a few weeks at this point. But I just really trusted
Mm-hmm.
him, and I had no reason to feel uncomfortable. So I go to this neighboring island with them, and we spent like the 5 sweetest days in this house that he also built in Sumbawa. And it was just so
Wow.
wholesome. No kissing, no anything, just playing house. Like, it was just like the most beautiful dynamic. And it was in those moments that I fell in love with him. And it was also in those moments that I thought to myself, even if we're only ever just friends, that's fine. I just want this guy in my life. I just want the best for him. I just think he's so
Mm,
great and so loving to his son and so kind to everyone. And so I really fell in love with his character.
mm.
And yeah, I started to get the butterflies. And then, anyways, a few weeks later, we accidentally stumbled on the conversation of, I asked him how he was feeling, like just a general, like, how are you feeling? And he's like, how am I feeling? I feel like you're precious and like I want to protect you. And he took it as like, how do you feel about me? So a few weeks later, he ended up spilling the tea to me that he likes me, and we decided to start dating.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful. That's such a lovely, like, I love how it was not about chasing attraction and just like chasing like the attention of another, but just like really selflessly wanting the best for another, and that this somehow magically just, you were just brought together beautifully. So wholesome. So wholesome.
Yeah. And now I realize perhaps every relation I've ever had in the past was one of lust, not one of love.
Mm,
Because now that I've experienced true love in reference to a romantic relationship, I I realized there's a sense of awe, a sense of wonder, a sense of respect, a sense of, I just want to protect this person. I want this person to feel comfortable. I would never want to overstep on this person. I would never want to take anything from them, not their body, not their money, not their time, not their energy. I only want what's good for them. And this is the energy that I felt for him. And this is also the energy that I later found out he had been feeling for me the whole time. And so there was this kind of like trepidation, like, oh, should I even go there? I'd rather not go there because I would actually just rather nourish this connection we have. And of course, if it's meant to go there, it will go there, just naturally in its own time. But a really like slow burn into this. There was not this hot, fiery, like, oh, I can't like stop thinking about him type of thing. It was just like when he texted me, I was like, oh, like I felt sweet. But when I wasn't with him, I felt fine. And I also realized this is because fundamentally I had become a whole unit. And of course, self-love never ends. But I had gotten very, very content with myself, being with myself and loving myself. So it didn't really matter if he was around or not, if he was texting me or not. So therefore, there was none of this fiery obsession. And it just left room for love.
Amazing. Oh, that's so sweet. I'm so happy for you. That's really
Yeah, me too.
beautiful. Would you like reflecting back on a little bit deeper on like the previous relationships you had, just like what you've learned from that? You said most of them were probably like a relationship by lust, not really by genuine love. Would you like to
Yeah.
go deeper with us to just explore that topic, where you think where that stemmed from? And yeah, I think so many people are afraid to not find someone if they are not actively chasing something. And this is just like such a beautiful testimony that love literally fell into your lap when you really were just happy with yourself and just letting go and just really selflessly wanting the best for another person. It's so wholesome.
Yeah. Okay. This is such an interesting question because for those who are watching, if you haven't heard of the four attachment styles, I highly recommend looking into that. There's a great YouTuber named Heidi Priebe who really eloquently goes over the attachment styles. But I was the kind that they call avoidant, which is essentially when you get too close to me, I run. I'm afraid of
Oh, okay.
intimacy. And again, a lot of this is subconscious. But I had always attracted partners that were either also avoidant or anxious and like super needy and maybe like, ew, get away from me. And so I had this very toxic relationship with all my relationships in the past. It was either like they really need me and that makes me be like, get away from me, or we're both kind of like playing this like push pull game. Like I want to play a game, but then the moment they're interested, I'm like, oh, I don't care. And then they want to play a game, and the moment I'm interested, they pull away. And it was kind of like this dynamic of like push pull. And you see this a lot in, you know, some of this dating advice on Instagram and stuff. It's like, oh, be hard to get. It's like, no, don't play hard to get. Like, it's so toxic. Um, and I guess even more than just studying the attachment styles, the main shift between me and Alexis and then me and every other partner is in the past, I was always putting on a show to a certain degree. And so what I mean by that is, say someone asks you on a date, of course you're going to want to dress nice and maybe put on your best perfume and your nice heels that you only wear once a year. And that's all great and dandy. But we also do this subconsciously with our personality. We put on our best show, our best smile, our best lipstick. We tell our best stories. We only show the best sides of ourselves. And so this is the version that that person falls in love with. But the only issue with that is that's one side of you. That's not all of you. And so with Alexis, because right off the bat, there was not this like intention of like, I want him. There was nothing that I was trying to get from him. Therefore, I didn't need to show him only one certain side of me. So right from the beginning, he saw the whole entirety of me. No filter. Like at that Indigo Dye Blue workshop, I just rocked up wearing what I always wear, you know? And when I was playing with his 5-year-old, I was rolling in dirt. I wasn't trying to like stay all clean and pretty and only wear my nicest dress and put my best smile. And there was none of this fake filterness. It was just like, take it or leave it. Because like I said, I don't need anything from you. From the get-go, I was always just content with being his friend. I just liked being around him. I didn't need him to be my boyfriend. So I think a really pinnacle shift is usually in the past when I'd meet guys, right off the bat, I'm like, oh, I want to date them. I want them to be my boyfriend. I want something from them. I want to sleep with them. I want to kiss them, whatever it is. I want them to take me on a date. Whereas with him, it was like, I actually don't need anything from you. I enjoy when you're around, and when you're not around, I miss you, but that's okay because like I have other things to do.
Wholesome. Just wholesome. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's such a nice, uh, yeah, also important topic to talk about, and just like, yes, that's so beautiful that you were able to turn or like discover your own peace, inner peace first, and then you moved into a really wholesome relationship. Because now you also know, you are fine also without a relationship because you found your peace before that. Like you
Definitely.
were whole first. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And our relationship now continues to just, because this is another thing, you guys, the honeymoon phase it's real if you are falling in lust. Because what the honeymoon phase essentially is eventually, say you start dating the person that you dressed all nice for and you showed the best side of yourself, eventually you slip up and you start showing all of you. And so the honeymoon phase deletes itself. But if you show up right from the get go with wholeness, guess what? They're into all of you, which means there's no end to the honeymoon phase. And so Alexis's and I love has just like keeps continuing to grow, and it's
Oh.
so beautiful. We have such great open communication, and I'm just in awe that a love like this exists and that I get to be a witness to it. Yeah, I feel really blessed.
Oh, that's
Sorry, I'm
beautiful.
like so cheesy.
No, that's beautiful. I'm so happy for you. Also, like, how long have you been dating now? I think.
We've almost been dating half a year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And actually, in 2 days, we're going to Germany, and I'm going to spend Christmas with him and his parents and his son. So I'm really excited for that.
Oh, okay. So he moved from Germany to Bali, and now, but he lives like in Bali, like full time.
Yeah, he's lived here for 14 years,
Oh,
so
wow.
he's very well versed
Cool.
in Bali.
Oh, that's amazing. Amazing. Okay, I'm gonna ask you this after the podcast because I'm gonna be in Germany for Christmas and New Year's too. So maybe there's like a short, if it's
Okay.
not too far away, we'll have that in our own private conversation.
Yeah.
Oh no, so beautiful. Really amazing. I'm so happy for you. That's a wholesome story.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yes, yes. And oh wait, another question that just popped in my mind and that might be interesting for the viewers too regarding communication. So I guess because you showed up all of yourself and you just feel very comfortable in your own skin and just like around him, communication, which is also key in a relationship, is probably much, much easier. So how do you, I don't know if there have been any disagreements or whatnot, but like you feel, I guess you feel comfortable. It's not scary to bring something up because you're not scared to lose that love. Like you feel safe.
Yeah. Well, there definitely has been, I think, two minor disagreements. And the thing about disagreements is they're all minor when they begin. It's only through reactivity that a disagreement becomes an argument and becomes this big blow up, dramatic, we're going to break up thing. And so if you nip it in the butt through communication, then it just fizzles out. And so the way Alexis and I do that is we have a very clear idea of what communication is, and genuinely I know that he never wants to hurt me. He always, like, if he's communicating something, it's because he's trying to grow us closer together, and I know that. So when he says something that triggers me or vice versa, we can literally just say to each other, you know what, that kind of hurt my feelings, or that triggered me. I'm having a hard time right now relaxing and remembering the truth, which is that you care about me. So can we like go about this in a gentler way? And we ask for the communication to slow down or to be more gentle. And it's just honesty and reminding each other of your intent, which is I genuinely care about you. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I care about you. And I really want to work through this. So it's having the courage to communicate even when it's hard.
Beautiful. Amazing. I feel very whole now. Like this is just I don't know. I have no more question. This is just like a very wholesome story. Oh,
Oh,
thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. That is so beautiful. Thank you. That's really, really amazing, wholesome, very, very wholesome episode. Wow. I'm gonna. Wow, wow. No, this is gonna savor that feeling and that moment. No, that's really beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing everything. And of course, I'm also going to link everything down below. So, for instance, if you want to work with Haley when you have like troubles with anxiety and like how you look or with your body, I've watched, like, I've been observing her Instagram and everything, the content she posts, and I absolutely love it. And I think you're in very safe hands with her. So, I'm going to link it down below. Feel free to reach out to her. And I'm also gonna link down, maybe you can send me the YouTube video that you mentioned, like
yes.
all the things and also the book again. I'm gonna link it all down below and then
Yeah, I made
check it
a
out.
YouTube series about the Gene Keys, and I actually also just started offering readings for that, so we can link that
Beautiful.
below as well.
Yes, yes. I'm gonna link it all down below. All
Perfect.
right. Thank you so much for sharing your heart with us. And yeah, who knows? Maybe we're gonna see each other for another episode in the future. And for the listeners, have a wonderful day today. Don't be afraid to face your emotions and love yourself. We are seeing us in the next episode. Thank you so much, everyone, and bye.
Bye bye.